Hey guys, well, November is almost over, and I realized that there was one series I have not yet updated this month, and I'm talking about old people stuff. So we haven't been able to update, just kind of looking through old minis or old systems in this case. So I thought today what I would do instead of showing old miniatures is kind of reminisce about what some of us old timers considered to be, some better times with GW. And this isn't really meant as a commentary against GW and where they're currently at. I mean, I do realize that some of the decisions that they made have ultimately led to, at least in some part, the success of the hobby, and has introduced a whole new generation of gamers to the hobby. But anyway, what I'm talking about today is 2nd edition Warhammer 40K. This is the edition that my brother and I played mostly. As you can see, I still kept the rules for that because, this was just such... I really loved this game. Now, I know that this game had massive problems, wasn't the most balanced game, was not a clean format for tournaments. Games took quite a bit of time, and there was just so much intricacy, and the game was so complicated that it really wasn't, quote-unquote, the friendliest tabletop game for new players and beginners. So anyway, Dark Millenium. Let's take a look. Pop this open. I'm actually going to put this down here while we go through it. So I haven't been through this box in a long time. The old White Dwarf description. This is the old Warhammer 40K rulebook, 2nd edition. Tells you about how to set up the game. Here's some parts that we'd highlighted. So that was the rulebook. I had this book in here too, which I think was a playbook. And this is one of the neat things about 2nd edition 40K. So this is actually a play that I ran. Looks like a standard screen deploy or a standard assault. And they had this all set up using a standard jet bike screen, freelance characters, flexible guardians. Wow. This is all just stuff that I had written probably about 20 years ago about how I play against different opponents. How to deal with different types of terrain. Oh my gosh, character stats. Wow. So this was my old playbook. My brother would have probably killed or died to have that playbook back in the day when we were playing. A lot of our other players probably would have too. And it's a comment about 2nd edition 40K. Now, 2nd edition 40K, one of the things that I really loved about it was the fact that it was such a movement, deployment, strategic, and highly tactical game. It's not about picking the best units. In fact, a lot of the stuff that I used in 40K 2nd edition wasn't considered the most powerful stuff. However, it's in how you use it. It's in your ability to move around in the field, and that was the whole point of that playbook. In fact, I would say one of the best 2nd edition 40K players I ever knew was my buddy Mike, and Mike knew absolutely nothing about table gaming or wargaming in general. But what made him so good was that he watched a lot of football, and he understood a lot about movement, setup. He understood a lot about running plays, and that was what was so magical about 2nd edition. It wasn't just about the list. It wasn't just about getting the biggest and baddest new items out there and putting those in your list and making the most powerful list you can and then hoping for good die rolls. 2nd edition 40K allowed for the most amount of improvisation that I've probably ever seen in a tabletop gaming system, including systems out today. And that's why I loved it so much. The rest of this book, or the rest of this set, this Dark Millenium set, is about cards. And the game had an outrageous amount of cards, probably way more than it needed. Probably would have been fine just putting some of this stuff on charts, but you had strategy cards, you had mission cards, you have psychic cards, so your psychic powers, you paid for your psychic powers, and there was a whole psychic phase that revolved around dealing out cards from a warp deck. So you had force cards, You had special event cards like this Destroy Power. You had Psychic Duels, Energy Drain, Nullify cards, and that was a separate phase unto itself. Psychic phase could have been a pretty lengthy affair, to be honest with you. Some more Psychic cards I've got here. Vehicle upgrades. Vehicles had upgrade cards. Like there were generic vehicle upgrade cards, and then there were race-specific vehicle upgrade cards. And then you had war gear. So you had war gear cards. Now, another thing that I really liked about 2nd edition 40K was special characters were not such a big deal. They were actually pretty overcosted, and you could make yourself a really powerful character without breaking the bank on the points front. So, you know, for example, one of my favorite things to do was to keep characters at about 100 points or just below 100 points, and they proved to be very effective. These are vehicle data faxes. So each vehicle had its own data fax. Vehicles had 3 different speeds. So you've got on this battle wagon, you had slow speed of 8, combat speed of 18, and a fast speed of 25. So imagine a battle wagon going 25 inches. And one of my favorite rules was, you know, the orc transport rule. Any number of models that can fit or balance on the battle wagon can be carried by it. Any models which fall off during play are judged to have actually fallen off, and the normal rules apply. So that was very orky. A lot of orc players back then used to build baskets or whatever into their battle wagons to accommodate that rule. Our gaming group did not. We thought it was funny when stuff fell off. On the back of the vehicle data fax, you have a damage chart, and you have separate damage tables depending on what you hit. So again, much more complicated game, but different. So many different things could happen, just in shooting, in melee, and everything. I mean, it really felt to me like the most complete tabletop game ever made, and that's why we love it so much. Yes, we know it wasn't very balanced. There were some stupid things in the game. Now, I know a lot of 2nd edition people or people that have heard of 2nd edition or might have played it a few times are going to freak out about things like vortex grenades. And to be honest with you, vortex grenade was not we didn't consider vortex grenades to be one of the most broken things in the game, because if you had a 500-600 point model and somebody throws a vortex grenade at you, well, you just flat out deserve it. One of the most dangerous things in the game, at least as far as our gaming group was concerned, was the virus grenade, or the virus outbreak strategy card. A virus grenade was stupidly powerful against certain armies. So I remember one particular game that was so dumb that there was it was orcs versus Imperial Guard, and one player had a virus grenade as a war gear card. The other player had the virus outbreak strategy card. They threw the virus grenades at each other, and at the end of the first turn there was maybe 2 to 3 tanks left, just closed-topped, closed system vehicles left. So yeah, vortex grenades were powerful, mainly irritating. I mean, if you knew what you were doing, you never built a character that expensive anyways, and players that did, they were just a joke to us. We would use vortex detonators, or just one of our other favorite things to do with like multiple characters that had multiple armor saves or multiple regenerate saves is we just hit them with a graviton gun or with a power maul, things that could just incapacitate characters. And that was another thing that was so awesome about the game is, yeah, the poor players took powerful lists. Good players took mobile lists. Good players took mobile, lean lists and were ready to account for that idiot that would pay 400 or 500 points for a character, or they would spend 300 to 400 on a tank, and we would just walk over and blow up their 300 to 400 point tank, and the game would be half over because that was half their points. That was what we wanted in a system. We felt it was balanced for a system because of the fact that, yes, you could play stupid, uberly powerful stuff, but a smart player could use non-standardized movement, predictable movement, and better choices in lean war gear, and better better strategy and tactics to overcome a better list. That's what this whole playbook was about. That's why we loved this game so much. And so when 2nd edition went away and it went to 3rd edition, we understood the reasoning behind it. We knew, having played in tournaments that went on for, it felt like days or weeks, we knew that there had to be a system for tournaments. But they had gutted so much of this game. There's never been a rules jump in 40K as big as between 2nd and 3rd edition. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying that when we started playing 3rd edition, we really felt like we were only playing like half of a game. It never really came back to that, you know. And it never came back to, well, you know, my war track is fast, but my Viper is faster. You have penalties for hitting that kind of stuff, and we understand why. Okay, that's fine. We understand that the masses need the masses in the tournament crowd, they need a cleaner system. They need a more concise system. My brother and I, not being terribly competitive gamers, I went through my own stint of that, but we were more about playing a game with lots of character. And if anything, Warhammer 40K 2nd edition had an incredible amount of character to it. It had lots of quirks and lots of cards and lots of funky things that you know, by today's standards we would consider ridiculous. But the fact of the matter is, it felt like a more complete game. It felt like as a player, it felt like you had way more control. It wasn't just mathematics, stack your numbers, stack the dice. There were a lot of different things that you can do. So I didn't try to make this into a soapbox session. I actually just kind of wanted to reminisce about 2nd edition 40K and my love of that game, and it being really my first love as far as the tabletop hobby was concerned. I still love this game. I think my brother and I, on our 20th anniversary of our first 40K game, I think we should probably break this bad boy back out and play like a reunion game. I think that would be hilarious, because obviously I've got the whole set to play with, and I just think it would be really fun. We could play like a 500-point game in this system that would be, in our opinion, way more entertaining than, say, a 2,500-point game today in today's system. So anyway, that's it for looking at old stuff. I'm sure you may have some questions about 40K 2nd edition, and I'd love to be able to answer those for you. So anyway, thanks for watching.